Hello, magnificent eyeballs. We're back. It's Thursday, November 5th, 2020. Guy Fawkes Night, no less. And as you'll probably tell from the explosions around me here, a good time to be hidden away in a bunker. We do warmly welcome you then to the Voicing the World Late Night Noisecast, episode 14. Once again doing what we can and what we must to ensure feasts of reason, flows of soul, and stolen moments of bunker broadcasting in the time of Corona. On the show tonight, we're bringing new adventures in sound from members of my super circle. The flourishing superstar Mr. Eli Moon, the sublime Yeon Sir, and Mr. James Titshall drops virtually by to drink, laugh, and share his experiences of co-running a music agency in 2020. I begin tonight's episode then, as I used to do every Thursday, with oodles of government-approved 3 to 5 tier gratitude for all of your interactions and messages across the interweb, emails, text messages, the bookface, the TubeU, and such. In particular, with regards to the recently refurbished American Chronicle vehicle featuring Dr. James D. Boys and myself, which of course currently finds itself somewhat breathlessly awaiting a sense of conclusion in the US presidential election at time of going to air here. By my estimations, predicated upon lockdown's original count, as it were, it is now approximately day 245 here in the Voicing the World bunker. The bunker has, of course, changed a little bit since we last convened. However, you wouldn't necessarily notice that, given that we previously favoured a French Resistance-style audio-only eardrum-based format. With so much great music, as ever, to get through this evening then, I am delighted to move swiftly to our first Super Circle luminary of the night, the vocal majesty that is Mr. Eli Moon, about whom more after we hear one of my favourite singles of the year, with a warning to you viewers that this music video contains strobe lighting throughout. This is Eli Moon and Berry.
Didn't mean to go and kill you all. So what you pay when you give it all to me? Oh, to me. I felt it once, but it's over now. Cause in my mind, yeah, I figured out it's not free. It wasn't free. And honestly, I always knew that it was never gonna be enough. Tough love. And honestly, I knew that I was stand from the place above. You just don't qualify and bury all the bodies, all of the bodies, bury all the bodies, all of the bodies, bury all the bodies, all of the bodies, bury all the bodies. I know it felt good when you claim me yours, a part of that they never seen before. This mine, it's mine. I ain't to be the one to show this off, but I'd rather die and be beneath the floor than tied to this life. And honestly, I always knew that it was never gonna be enough. Tough love. And honestly, I knew that I was saved from the place above it. You just never qualified. Bury all the bodies, all of the bodies, yeah. Bury all the bodies, all of the bodies, yeah.
Eli Moon there with Berry. Eli and I go back somewhere in the region of 7 years, as I recall. I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning that he first came to me as a vocal student. I was, of course, drawn then immediately to his unique vocal tone, and together we worked through traditional American folk, jazz standards, and R&B covers, with myself either on piano or guitar, and he filling the rehearsal space with vocal exaltations, glorious as such for the duration. Slowly but surely, and rightfully, he came to take the guitar off me, and subsequently became the self-assured self-accompanist and superstar he is now rightly recognized as. Eli will be joining me over on our long-form interview format show, the Voicing the Worldcast, in the coming weeks, and it felt all kinds of right to have him kick us off musically for this show and its new series. Links below as ever, folks. You know what to do. So what's going on? I need not speak of presidential uncertainties, Lockdown 2, Wave 3, Tier 5, the new bunkers, ever-increasing electricity bills. It's all happening here on Spaceship Earth at present, and you already know all about it. Rest assured, however, that the music segment of tonight's Noisecast is not a place for such machinations. We're here first and foremost to shuffle off the trappings of terra firma, shall we say, and ascend with the music deities. And speaking of ascending, time now for our next Super Circle luminary, who some of you may recognize from one of the first Noisecasts back in March, the Korean-born violinist and composer Yeon, someone whose playing I frequently describe as containing a perfect alchemic formula of fire and water, necessarily different qualities, both of which necessary for creative sublimation, and whose compositional prowess is now so deservedly coming to the fore. Inspired by the book My Dear Bessie, a love story in letters by Chris Barker and Bessie Moore, commissioned by and in dedication to Peter Barker and his family, here is Yeon performing her exquisite composition, My Dear Bessie. Yeon Sir there, performing her composition, My Dear Bessie. Links below once again, folks. You know what to do, including one to her brand new website, which launched this very week. Time now then for a backstory, ahead of our new interview section of the show. Just over a decade ago, I received a phone call from an unknown number. Perhaps foolishly answering it, a sophisticated voice on the other end informed me that I had been recommended as a jazz vocalist, and that just about everyone else on the British jazz scene had in fact been contacted before me, but sadly none were available. So therefore, would I be interested in perhaps lamenting and then accepting my call of last resort status and taking a gig that weekend? In an unlikely story, after so inauspicious a beginning, the sophisticated voice and I developed a decade-long friendship that is founded in professional trust, mutual support, and hilarity. As you will come to see in tonight's interview, there were one or two breaks in transmission, as is common in these somewhat preposterous times. As such, any visible edits that you spot are in place either for comic effect or as a result of rain-induced broadband failure. Yes, you heard me correctly. Apparently, now rain stops broadband. Perhaps some sort of moist 5G conspiracy or otherwise at work. In a conversation recorded in October, but prescient to its core now, containing both the serious-hearted centre of the present global predicament and the relief of friendship and fine humour, it is now my great pleasure to bring you drummer, co-founder and director at the music agency Sound Generation, Mr. James Titshall.
I want to say firstly that I love you. That can be on record, or not. Evening.
You beautiful man. James Titshall, as I live and breathe. How are you doing, sir?
I'm okay. All things considered, I'm okay. How are you?
Good man. Yes, very good. Thanks. You chose tequila for us to drink tonight. What's happening in your glass?
Drinking what I believe is called a tequila Diablo, which is cheers. Tequila, creme de cassis, and ginger beer.
Wow.
The only way to fly.
So I got whiff of this, and the most I could conjure was ginger ale. So I have tequila, ginger ale, and a little grapefruit bitter. So that's the...
A Diablo Light. Diablo Light.
I suppose, yes, I'm lacking the creme de cassis. But I've made up for it in this tasteful shirt.
It could be anywhere. Hawaii 5-0. I don't drink a lot. I drink more now than I ever have in my life. No, I drink more now than I did in February. I'm not an aficionado of tequilas or any spirits, I hasten to add. The only reason I started drinking tequila was it was down to a Steely Dan song, Hey 19. Well, Steely Dan, Hey 19 has Michael McDonald on BVs singing about the Cuervo Gold. I was like, man, what is this Cuervo Gold? And I Googled it thinking I was going to find something like the Aztec Kingdom, the Lost Mayan Ruins,
Sierra Madre. Yeah.
It turns out it's just tequila. So I just thought, you know what? If it's good enough for Michael, then it's good enough for me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sorry to be the wrong Michael in that case, but I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking about you. I think the last time I saw you, we were on a gig.
We were a secret service mission, as I recall.
It was. I don't know how many details you like to go into about the kind of work you undertake.
I say nothing, but you having booked that particular adventure may say whatever you wish. Yeah.
I did. No. Well, that man, I forget when that was. It would have been. Was it January? When gigs existed?
Very start of February.
Yes. Right.
So we were tipping.
Things like, although you and I have sort of caught up over lockdown and that via text and checking in, everyone that I'm speaking to now that I haven't, really seen for say 6 months, we're all just saying it's just a different world. It seems like a different world, feels like a different world. Last time I saw you, that gig just feels like a lifetime ago now.
Yeah, it seems like an impossible version of London, yeah.
Well, I'm hoping it's not another lifetime before we can do it again.
Seeing as you sat there in front of your shiny drum kit and otherwise, I wondered if you could begin by telling us a little bit about your own musical excitements throughout life and what led you on the skin-beating path.
Skin-beating path. So I started playing drums relatively late, probably around 15, 16. I mean, if I look at, kids playing drums now on Instagram who just cane me and they're about 3 years old. So I started relatively late, but got into it passionately, went to one of Europe's leading drum colleges, that's their words, not mine, when I was in my late teens. And that's where I met Sophia, my wife and boss, who is a singer. She was at the singing part of college. We met in a band. That's like 20 years ago now. And we are now married and we have 3 kids and we have a business, Sound Generation, which you know well. And we provide musicians and bands and DJs for events, weddings, for hospitality, so for restaurants, hotels, bars. I still play drums. We're passionate about music. Sphere still sings, though less so since we have 3 young kids, obviously. And all was really going hunky-dory, as it was for so many people until earlier this year. Well, hospitality has been hit so hard by this. And of course, arts, culture have been hit massively. And of course, the concern is that they're not going to be propped up enough to survive, potentially. I mean, I am optimistic that they will. It's just how many casualties there'll be in the process. I'd love to think that by spring of next year, things will be starting to happen. We'll be more in control of the virus. We might actually have a track and trace system in place. Hospitality will be open. Curfews will not be as restrictive. All those things, and music venues, venues, hotels, restaurants, bars, plus obviously dedicated music venues, weddings, events, all the stuff will start to tick over. But it's just where the musicians who have dedicated their lives to this can go. Where are we now? Just at the start of October, can go for the next 4, 5, 6 months, waiting for that to happen without, government stimulus, whether that's packages or sort of promotions that sort of seat out to help out, or if it's a continuation of the furlough scheme of any kind. Rishi Sunak's comments about he can't guarantee all jobs, or people will be able to keep in the same jobs. Which is fine. I understand that, but he seems to be saying, obviously, suggesting that musicians would just have to retrain at something, which is all levels of wrong, because this isn't, we're not generally not talking about musicians or actors or writers who, they do a gig once a month and they do it as a hobby. We're talking about professional musicians who have studied and dedicated their lives to this. It's a craft, it's an art. It's so important. Rishi Sunak was not really saying that, musicians, actors, the arts, they might have to get a temporary job just until things come back, which, although that would be super difficult anyway, that kind of makes sense. If I thought to myself now, you know what, I'm just going to get a part-time job, a few months, keep the bills paid, and then we'll be back in business. But he seemed to be suggesting that, it's gone, those jobs are gone, which is just unacceptable. And a lot of musicians can't play now because of government-imposed restrictions. Those restrictions are in place because we've only just got in place the track and trace, all the stuff. Don't want to get too political, but it's not their fault. And this is so important for so many reasons. Obviously the money that the arts and culture bring to the economy, but it's livelihoods and it's mental health and it's all sorts of stuff that and we need to be supported. From point of view of sound generation, we're obviously looking at all the stuff we were doing before, thinking about how we can do it better when things are up and running. We were fortunate to be furloughed for the bulk of lockdown. The PAYE furlough obviously runs out this month, but that was a financial lifeline for a lot of people. And I know quite a lot of people who sort of fell through the cracks, whether they were limited company directors who paid themselves through dividends as opposed to through PAYE, who didn't get the same benefits. Some self-employed musicians weren't able to get the help they needed. If there is help available in the interim from the government, and I think there needs to be, like I said, that I think there need to be more people need to be more vocal about it. People who have a voice in this situation in the arts. Musicians Union have, to the best of my knowledge, have been good in trying to push the government and raise awareness and help musicians. I'm sure there's many other organisations trying to do the same. The more of that we have, the better, really. And we might just come through the other side slightly less unscathed.
One of the things I felt that was sort of missing at the start of the first lockdown was that sense of perhaps inevitably in terms of survival instincts, and otherwise there was very much an individual, everyone closing themselves away and every person for themselves, as it were. And yeah, one of the reasons I wanted very much to stay in touch with you and to do this interview tonight and everything was for that sense of just acknowledging a bit of gratitude to the fact that we're talking, as we say there, we're talking 10 years of 10 years of performance and noise and promotional noise and otherwise that all just plays a wonderful part in keeping so much of that alive, whilst we are either immersed in huge musical things or diversifying as we do. But irrespective, there are some key threads that run through all of that. And I just wish to.
I appreciate that, and I'm really glad you asked me. Cheers, man. Really glad you asked me to be on.
On a personal note, you've got to finally tell me, because for so many years, over the 10 years, you and I have said that we're going to have drinks together, and obviously, inevitably, it only happens when we're, setting up for a gig or after a gig or otherwise, where we get to actually stand there and chat properly for a moment. So now I feel I've got you cornered into a don't drink and Zoom box here. You've got to tell me, what is it with you and Van-Damme?
Oh, man. Well, you know what? I'm going to be honest, Mike. I like it when things are done well, okay? So I was really into martial arts in my teens. Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, Van Damme, all those different kind of category, potentially. I don't know. I just saw I saw Kickboxer when I was young. I was so inspired by it, and I just think Jean-Claude Van Damme's a ledge, and I just like it. I kind of feel like he was the perfect guy at that time in those movies, the low budget but hard hitting, and I just like. I like that he is kind of like a little nugget in history.
Right.
In a way, I mean, in a way, it would have been better if he'd, perhaps if he, with very respect to him, if he'd stopped shortly after that kind of that mid-90s success. It's a bit like Eric Cantona, the footballer. His career in no way waned. In I think it was 97. He quit, they didn't win the Champions League, so he quit playing. And you just remember him, apart from the kind of mad poetry stuff, you just remember him as this glistening gem in history, like this great footballer who influenced the early years of the Premiership. And I don't know, I guess just Van Damme is just, I want to be him. I wanted to be him as a kid. That's probably all there is to it. No, I just like
James Time Cop Titshall.
Yeah, man. It's just, it's probably... Actually, I just think he was that guy at that time, at that place. Done.
Absolutely. Yeah. Top films?
Which ones?
Yeah, top films of yours.
Oh, what, Van Damme or otherwise?
Van Damme, yeah.
Van Damme. It's got to be Kickboxer, closely followed by AWOL and Bloodsport. And then, if I'm totally honest, after that, they're kind of like, I don't know, man. Like Universal Soldier, and there's just that core. That core of movies, I think it's like a lot of people. Those three movies I mentioned, they were before he was huge, before he was big time. So it didn't have the massive budget. Obviously, if you've seen those movies, and it didn't have the sort of promotion and the hysteria behind it. It was just Van-Damme. By the way, JC, man, if you are watching, I still love you now. So don't feel like I'm suggesting your career has waned.
It did feel like the love was,
And I think he does watch your podcast, right? So
yes, as I understand it, yes, yeah,
win-win.
yeah.
We will at him.
We've received several letters. I'm reliably informed. Did you ever see From Hell or In Hell, where he's like in a sort of a prison cell where every day is a fight to the death? That always stuck with me.
I know the one you mean. I didn't, and I think I stopped watching his movies because I kind of wanted to just be blissfully ignorant. It's a bit like, I mean, I loved the A-Team as a kid, right? Like when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, the A-Team was there. I'm not going to watch it now because, of course, it'll be like, oh, it was terrible. I didn't realize the acting is horrendous. There's no production value. I just remember it as the best. I remember it as the best show ever, and I want to remember Van-Damme like that. So I stopped watching once I saw a couple of movies that were slightly less than optimal. I think I thought, no, you know what? He's always going to be here in my mind on a high, on a pedestal, and I don't want to sabotage that.
I see.
Don't make me sabotage it, Michael.
I wouldn't dream of it, James. Who am I, after all, to stand in the way of a man and his forbidden Van-Damme love? James Titshall from Sound Generation there, in fine spirits, consuming fine spirits, and insightful and hilarious as ever. My thanks to him for taking the time to talk, and of course to you, magnificent people, for taking the time to watch tonight's show. Like some sort of first responder to a bat signal, when the lockdowns come, the Late Night Noisecast re-emerges to celebrate those who captivate and inspire me on the world's music scene. Here we are again then, now in glorious Technicolor and Super Mario Nation, of course, and I am greatly honoured once more to bring the luminaries of my super circle to your kind attention as we navigate the storm-tossed seas to come. Until next time then, this has been the Late Night Noisecast. I'm Michael L. Roberts. Good luck, stay legendary, and ever onward to you all.